Hello friends, welcome to SMCA Live. This is Nagesh Gutila. Well, today we're going to see a very interesting game. There's a game called Opera Game, which was played in Opera House in Paris in 1858. And this is one of the best games in the history of chess. And this game basically will explain you the importance of the rapid development of pieces in chess and as well as the sacrifice in a mating combination. So this game was played by Paul Morphy, a noted American chess player, against two amateurs. So one was the French Duke, Karl II, and the other guy was the German aristocrat, Isouard. So let me show you how interesting this game is, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this game. So Paul Morphy was white. He started with e4, and both of them consulting each other, they have decided to play the pawn to e5. Paul Morphy played knight f3 and they have played pawn d6. Well, this is called as a Philidor's defense. This is basically a good opening, but this is actually very passive because it ignores the development of the d4 square. And nowadays, if you see the people don't play d6, they prefer playing a knight c6 because which also puts pressure on the d4 square. So anyways, they have chosen to play a pawn d6 and Paul Morphy continued with pawn d4, putting more pressure on the d4 on the e5 square. Now the black, they have decided to play bishop to g4, pinning the knight. Now the obvious move is d into e5. Here obviously black cannot play d into e5 because that will simply lead to the exchange of the queens and a loss of a pawn, and black will lose the privilege to castle. So what they have done here is bishop into f3. Paul Morphy played queen into f3. Now the queen is very well placed attacking the weak point, that is f7. So they played d into e5, and another obvious move is bishop c4, putting a checkmate, a mate threat on the f7 square. To stop the mate, they played knight f6, and then Paul Morphy played a very interesting move. Not leaving his target of f7 square, he played his queen to b3. And now look here guys, the queen from b3 is not only attacking the pawn on b7, but also attacking the pawn on f7 square. If black plays pawn b6, it's a very big mistake, and I'm sure you can find out the mate here. Yes, mate in 2, bishop into f7 check, and whether king to d7 or the king to e7, queen e6 is a checkmate. So here, black have obviously foreseen this mate, and they have defended the square by playing the queen to e7. Remember, the queen d7 would be a blunder because for queen d7, Paul Morphy would play a queen into b7, and now the only way to save the rook is going to be the queen to c6 and then bishop b5. That's how black would lose his queen. So that's the reason they have played queen e7, and it's going to be a bad move for Paul Morphy if he takes the pawn on b7, because then black will have an option to exchange the queens. There's going to be a forced exchange of queens here, and that's going to be a loss of an attacking initiative as well. Because whenever your queen is doing a good job and when it's basically in an attacking position, it's not good to exchange the queen. You have to retain the queen. It's very important. So Paul Morphy first played knight c3 to stop the check, and then probably if he gets a chance, he's going to go for the b7 square. So they played pawn to c6, defending the b7 pawn. It's a good move. And Paul Morphy is focusing on the development of pieces. Another good square for his dark color bishop on g5. And here also it's pinning the knight. Black played pawn b5. And here, instead of retreating the bishop, what white noticed is that there is a complete underdevelopment of pieces on the black's front. So this is the right time for him to sacrifice his knight for 2 pawns, because that would give him a lot of attacking chances and would also remove the defenders around the king. So the most obvious move here is knight into b5, pawn into b5, and comes the bishop into b5. Now look at this move. The only good move here is to block with the knight, because if he tries king d8, that's a very bad move. King is in the center, vulnerable to attack. He could just do a long castling, and black will lose very easily from here onwards. So the only move here is knight d7. But look at the bishops here, guys. Look at it. Look at the Morphy's bishops. Both the bishops are doing a great job. Both of them are pinning the knight. That is the power of a pin. So the only defense right now is black has to provide more support to the knight. So what is possible here is maybe he can bring his rook to d8, because white will certainly put more pressure on d7. So here Paul Morphy had two chances, either to go for a long castle or a short castle. Long castling is the best, because that would immediately put pressure on the pinned knight on d7. That's a great move. So the threat would be bishop into knight, or you can even do a rook into a d7 followed by a discovery. So black has to play a rook to d8, and then rook into d7, rook into d7, and another winning move, or we can even say that the winning move is the final nail in the coffin, rook to d1. That's it. Now here onwards, I don't think so black could do anything here to save the game. And if you just compare it, guys, you can see here how this bishop on f8 has been blocked, and how the rook hasn't been developed, or not in the action, because black has not focused on developing the pieces. And these are very common mistakes when you play with amateurs. And I've already mentioned here, when Paul Morphy was playing, both these guys were amateurs. So yet they have found a way. They understood the threat is going to be a bishop into a rook and king d8 and probably queen b8 checkmate. So if any capture takes place on the d7 square right now, none of the black pieces are in a position to recapture. So what black thought, the best way is that he could actually free this knight, which is under pin. This knight should be able to, recapture on d7 square if any capture happens on the d7. So they played queen e6. But this is also doesn't defend his position, because irrespective of this, Paul Morphy would have played the bishop d7 check. Now the only move to stop the check is the knight d7, because if he tries king d8, this is a checkmate. And if the queen captures, obviously there is a rook. So, and if the king moves to e7, then bishop into queen equal to winning. So he played knight here. Now here onwards, guys, can you just find a checkmate in two moves? A brilliant move. What a finish by Paul Morphy. And this finish has really entertained both of them. They were pretty happy, to have played this match with an American player, one of the greatest players during that time. Yes, you're absolutely right. I'm sure some of you have got the answer. Queen b8. What a sacrifice. Look at it. Because what Paul Morphy has seen is that rook d8 is a mate provided there is no knight on d7 square. That's it. Clear the way with a bait. So knight has to capture and rook d8. This is the brilliant checkmate by Paul Morphy. So hope you all have enjoyed this opera game. Alright, I'm going to see you soon again with another interesting game. Until then, bye-bye.